Hello, beautiful teachers, and welcome to another Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. This is the weekly show here on YouTube where we talk about all sorts of fun stuff that are happening in our music studios, specific topics that we can learn about and discuss together, and some news in what's going on in the music teaching industry as well. My name is Nicola Canton, if we haven't met before, and I'm the creator of Vibrant Music Teaching, Colourful Keys, and Vivid Practice. Those are all related to each other. Now, we're just back after the summer break, so I want to start off by saying Happy September, everybody. How's your summer been? It's so great to be back. We'll be back to our usual schedule pretty much from here on. Next week, we have a whole week of birthday celebrations, and then the week after that, we actually have a week off because I'm going to Alberta in Canada for the APTA conference, which I'm super excited about. And then after that, it'll just be business as usual, this normal time every Wednesday. But don't fear, even when I'm away, we still have a great radio lined up to go out at the same time to you. So you won't be left with nothing to watch. So we have been off for the summer, so I wanted to catch you up a little bit and let you know that we have some fun themes that have been going on the blog. So all summer and still now, our theme on the podcast and the blog has been about memorization. It's called Mastering Memory. And so we've been talking about different aspects of how to memorize pieces and whether we even should memorize and different things around that area. So if you haven't checked out the blog recently, go over to colourfulkeys.ie/blog and you'll see it. Or just Google Colourful Keys blog and you'll see it there and you can check out those articles. Our next theme coming up the last quarter of the year from October is going to be about teacher time management. So if you struggle with managing your own time, yes, almost everyone, then that's one you're going to want to stay tuned for as well. And those are all free. It's all on the blog and the podcast as well. If you search for Vibrant Music Teaching Podcast, you should see it in any podcast player. Now, we had a big announcement couple of days ago, as we're live here, which was about a new app that I've just brought out. So this is a practice app, meaning it's designed for the teacher to input assignments, set up assignments for the student, and the student on a website, and the student then uses the app to practice, to organize their practice time, listen to recordings or watch videos, go to links, various things like that. So it's called Vivid Practice, and there is a free account that you can set up which will let you test it out with one student account. So you can fully test all that it can do. It is brand new, so if you come across anything that you'd like to see done differently in it, do let us know. Very open to feedback. We want to make this amazing for all teachers who think it might be a good fit for them. So this is basically an alternative to a practice notebook. If you're still using a practice notebook, maybe you'll consider joining us on the technology side because it has a lot of benefits. If you're using a different practice app, maybe look at this one and see if it better suits your needs. We're going to be looking at that in more detail later in the show. But right now, we're going to dive into our main topic. And this week, we're talking all about how we start lessons. So when it comes to the very first thing that you do in your lessons, what is it for you? Let me know in the comments. What is the first thing you usually do with your students when you start your lesson with them? Do they come in and you ask them right away, hey, how was practice at home this week? Or do you ask them straight away to practice something that they've been supposed to be practicing at home? Or maybe you start with the same technical exercise every time. Maybe you start with stretches or some kind of warm-up like that. What is your go-to? What do you normally default to? I really try to mix this up. I try to start in different ways, but we all have habits that we fall into. And I think it's important to try and do different things each week, not every week, but to mix it up once in a while. Keep our students on their toes, having fun, and also prioritizing different things in our lesson. Because often we intend to fit something in, but if it's not something we naturally focus on in our teaching, if it's not something we've been doing for a long time, then it can get left aside and pushed out, and then you run out of time in the lesson, right? So often the thing we do first, it being a new thing to us, is a really good idea because it means that we get to that thing. Okay, so I've got a few different ideas, 14 to be precise, of how you can start lessons, and I'd love to hear yours in the comments. The first one is practice aloud, and doesn't actually have to be aloud. The idea here is that your student will come in and right away, maybe after a little chat with them to catch up on their week, first thing you ask them to do is show you exactly what their practice looked at like this week. And I would even go so far as to make it not allowed. So if they start saying, okay, well, I take out my book, I'd be like, yeah, don't tell me, just show me. Do exactly what you do at home. And I'll just watch. Of course, they're not going to do exactly what they do at home. But the secret to this is that they are going to show you what they think they should be doing. And we know that what they think they should be doing might be different from what they actually are doing, but it also is likely different from what they really should be doing. Like they might think that playing each piece the whole way through twice is practice, even if you've told them otherwise. That might be what they do. And that gives you an opening to talk about practice and what it really means and the difference between practicing and playing, etc. So maybe you try a little practice aloud or practice demonstration at the very start of your next lesson with your student. Let me know if you've ever done that before. Next one is one I use quite a bit, especially at the starts of terms and things like that. I love doing this, which is to improvise an animal. So I ask my student to name an animal, any animal. It can be their favorite, it can be just the first one that comes to mind. And they name it, and we say, okay, so how could we make it sound like an alligator on the piano? What would that sound like? And they might tell me loud, crashing, scary. Any words they use are fine. Maybe they say it's going to be the deep notes. And we sort of discuss it for a few minutes. And then we come up with an improv to do together based on that. So I say, okay, right. So I think I'm assuming it's a beginner here in my mind. I say to them, I think we should do this in E minor. So I tell them what keys are in E minor, what keys they should use for their improv. And really, I do all the heavy lifting of making it sound like an alligator with the chords. But we incorporate some of their ideas, maybe quiet sounds or loud sounds, and minor, major, and anything we discussed to make it sound like that animal. It's just a great different way to start off a lesson and postpones that talk about practice. So this is why I love it for the start after like a break away from piano when they've been off school and off piano. A lot of them won't have practiced. Let's be real, okay? So doing this straight away when they come in makes me make sure that I don't say, how's practice going? Or did you do any practice? No, we just start with this and then we launch into whatever we're going to be working on. Okay, number 3 then, the retrospective. How about starting your lesson by taking a look down memory lane? We take out our students' books, or even the ones they used to use if you have books in your studio that they would have been in before, like if they've graduated from a method book series, but you still have teacher copies on hand. Take out books that they've used previously and play some of the older pieces together. Depending on how long your student's been with you, maybe those are from years ago, or maybe they're from just the other day, if they've barely started. But if it's something they've passed off, it does help you to look back at them, helps them think about how far they've come, see things a bit differently, and again, it's just a fresh way to start the lesson. Next one doesn't need much explanation, and I'm not going to demonstrate, but it is jumping jacks. And I think it's good for us to do this with our students, because sometimes we can stay sitting and walking, but not really move for several hours because we're teaching, right? But incorporating something like this, even if you just do 5, can just give a different flavor to the start of the lesson. And for many of your students, they'll go into their pieces in a different way, with a different energy, if they've done some kind of activity. Now, if you hate jumping jacks, that's fine. You can do whatever you like. But some little action that you can do together, maybe you do a series of high fives, whatever you want. Some movement-based thing that's simple and only takes 10 to 30 seconds and just starts the lesson in a different way. So that's idea number 4 of 14. Yes, I'm throwing a lot at you today. So I just want to remind you of our little mantra here, which is J dot. Write it in the chat if you know, you know. What does J dot stand for? It stands for just do one thing. Just do one thing. So pick one of these 14. I'm giving you 14 ideas so that you have variety, not so that you do all of them, okay? With that in mind, here's number 5. The musical mystery. I love this one. I want to do this one this week. This is where the student comes in and you tell them, okay, I want you to think about something that happened to you this week. A little story or something that happened, anything that happened during your week. But don't tell me. And then you say, okay, now show me that story on the piano. And, maybe they fell over and they make plonking sounds or whatever. And then you guess what it might be. And you can be really goofy with your guesses because honestly, you're probably not going to get it, right? So it's not about you getting it right. But you could, based on what they play, if they're very timid, you could say, oh, you met a little mouse and he started talking to you about his life story or whatever. Come up with something silly and goofy and then get them to tell you what the story really was. This is a musical connection, but it's also just a different way to get students to open up to you about things that happen during their week. Some students are very reticent to really give you any chat. Some will absolutely tell you everything that happened and you have to hold them back. But some students we have, they don't always come up with something. They feel like they don't have anything interesting to say, or they're just a bit shy. So this can give you that opening to learn something about how their week went, what goes on in their life, what's important to them. Sight reading duets. This is a simple one, but it's fun. It can be fun, and it can put a new spin on sight reading for some of your students. I love to do sight reading as duets with my students because I can force them to keep going by just keeping going with my part. And it feels like less pressure on them in a way. Some will find it stressful for sure, but it does feel like they're less on the spot. I'm listening to them, but I'm not really focused on them, just sitting there watching them do their sight reading. So it's a different experience and it can be really fun. If you do this, just make sure it's at a way easier reading level than your students' level. Even easier than you would give them normal sight reading at, because having the duet does add an extra challenge to the sight reading. Next up, halfway there, is the pop song play-along. So for this one, you can pick any pop song that you think your students might know and print out the chord chart for that. By chord chart, I just mean the lyrics with the chords written above. No melody at all, it's not a lead sheet, it's just the chords. And then you can play along with that pop song. So put it on your speaker, in your studio, using their phone, whatever you have, and then play along with that. Now, if your student doesn't know chords, that's fine. They can just do the root note. In fact, this is great for getting students more comfortable finding their way around the piano. If they're relatively new to finding the piano keys, this can be great for them because they have to think on their feet a little bit. Or if they're just new to sharps and flats, pick something that has one of those and they have to identify the correct black key to play as well. It's harder than you think for them to even just do the root note. You can do the chords and you can both just play along together. And if they play barely any of it, it's fine. They got to listen to the song. It was fun anyway. You just move on. You don't need to practice it or reinforce it. You just work on it in the moment, and it's a really fun way to warm up and get your minds thinking and listening, right? What about doing a watch party? What about picking a video and watching it at the start of the lesson? You've loads of choices for what video to pick. It could be something funny, some like musical, funny video, like one where orchestras mess up or whatever, those are fun. Or it could be something, a performance by a wonderful pianist that you want them to look at and learn from. Or it could be something funny in a different way. This idea actually occurred to me as I was preparing for this, because I was recently, once again, talking about that fantastic video from Axis of Awesome, the 4-chord song. I'm sure many of you will know it. If you don't, look it up on YouTube after this. Axis of Awesome 4 chords will get you there. It's a very popular video. They just play the 4-chord pattern 1, 5, 6, 4, and over the top they sing like just tons of different songs. And it's just super fun, and it drives home this point of, hey, chord progressions are really important, and the same one is under all these songs. And hey, by the way, it's also in classical music too. So that's a really fun one to watch together, but it can also be more serious and more like a regular classical performance that you want them to learn from. If you are going that route, I would give them something to think about. So ask them a question beforehand, like, what I might use is, what's the furthest away from their body that they reach their arms? Have you ever had any students who are really like closed off and they need to break out and be more expressive with their playing? I think watching even not very floopy and expressive performers, they might be surprised how much they're actually moving away from their body, how far they're reaching away from the piano and from themselves. So that's one idea for a question. Could be anything. How about just starting with a new piece? Have you ever done this? Does it seem like a weird idea? It doesn't have to be. We so often start with stuff you were already doing. Show me the thing you were practicing last week, right? And that has this aura of, let's check if you were doing your homework. But what if we started with a brand new piece? No reason you can't do that at the start of the lesson, and it will maybe be approached in a different way than if you leave it till the end, when the student has less energy, less focus. Or how about we start with listening? I don't think we do this enough in general. Let me know if you do this all the time. But music is something we listen to. I've said it many times, I'll say it again, because we need to remind ourselves of that. We get so focused on the reading, but it's something we listen to. So we should be listening more. How about starting your lesson by just saying, hey, listen to this, and at the end tell me whatever. Or listen to this, and just move your arms in a way that goes with the music. Give them something to do rather than just listening. Even if you say, listen to this, and you can close your eyes or direct your gaze softly to the floor. Just give them a different perspective on it. It could be something they're about to learn. It could just be something interesting. Some kind of music they haven't heard before. One of your favorite pieces you want to share with them. Could be anything. But a lot of our students don't listen to enough actual music, right? Not background music, not in a supermarket, not even in a car, but like actually listening to music. Most of our students don't do that at all. What about starting with composing? It can be just a few bars, but maybe you compose something based on a concept that they learned about last week. So they learned the G major scale last week. Compose something in G major, 2 bars, right at the start of the lesson. If they learned a new rhythm pattern, compose something with that right at the start of the lesson. It's another one of those things that we often leave till the end and therefore don't have time for. What about starting with a game? A lot of teachers think that games are like rewards, that we save them for the end or put them in the middle of the lesson to break up activities, and that's great. But sometimes surprising your student and starting with a game can put them in an amazing frame of mind and teach them a theory concept that they need for the rest of the lesson. How about the Syncopa challenge? What am I talking about here? This one takes some explaining. Here's what I want you to do, and I want you to do this at home right now so that you get what I'm saying, okay? I want you to do patch. I'm going to do it in the air so that you can see. So, Syncopa, or if you prefer, ti-ta-ti, or any rhythm vocalization you prefer. So you're doing Syncopa, Syncopa. Practice with me. Syncopa. Sorry. Syncopa, Syncopa. Practice it a little bit on your own. Okay, now stop. And I want you to march with your feet, and that's just going to be ta. Just a steady beat. Now you might have guessed what's coming. You need to do both together. So start your marching. Syncopa, 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 Syncopa. What about starting with that? It gets you moving, gets you thinking, gets you focusing on rhythm, and it's so fun. Okay, last one, number 14. A dance party. How about we ask our student for their favourite song at the moment? Not a piano song, it's always good to clarify that, because they think we just think about piano music all day, or violin music if you teach violin. So, not a classical song, but just any song. What's your favourite song at the moment? And if they can't tell you, just pick one. But give them the opening. And then look it up on Spotify. Make sure it doesn't have the little E for explicit. And if it doesn't, put it on and dance together. Okay, it's a bit awkward, but it might actually be really fun. But you have to do it with your student as well. I think this does two things. The movement obviously is great. We've been talking about that a lot. Getting students up and moving about at the start of the lesson. But it's also great because it teaches them that you think the music they're interested in is valid. Not that it's your favourite, but it's valid, it's music. You will count it in the music sphere, right? And often classical lessons give off this vibe of only our music matters, right? Even if we don't mean to. So starting off with, hey, what's your favourite song at the moment? And if they don't tell you one, just put on Taylor Swift or something and have a little boogie together. You can be really silly about it. If they're awkward, you can just not pressure them to take part, but just kind of dance around anyway. Could be really fun. So let me know which one of these 14 ideas you're going to do in your studio. Pick just one. Remember your J dot, right? J dot. Just do one thing. So pick one of these and try it for all of your lessons for a week. It might just change how you look at teaching and how you do things for the rest of the lesson. Alright, as promised, we're going to take a quick look at Vivid Practice, which is our new app. So adjust the screen a little bit. Okay, so this is our new practice app. As we look around here, I would love to get your questions for the Ask Me Anything section, which we're about to get to after this. So just type the word question, followed by your question, and you can ask me anything at all, and I'll come back to all of those. I've seen a few come through already, but I'm open to taking more. And while you're thinking of your questions, let me show you around Vivid Practice. So if you haven't seen the announcement, this is just the other day, so no worries. But basically, I've been developing this app for 9 or 10 months now. And the reason I decided to do this was because I was frustrated with what is out there, essentially. So I've been using a practice app, and I love the idea of using a practice app. I do think initially I was hesitant about it. I wanted to keep using my folders, but COVID pushed us into using a digital solution, and really it is better because students are a little bit more likely to check it than the notebook. I'm not saying it guarantees they check it. That you have to do and the parents have to do, but they're a little bit more likely to check it and know what they're supposed to be practicing. The other big benefit though is that you can attach things, so it makes it much more likely that they will actually access the audio. Now again, not guaranteed, still needs parent support, still needs reminders from you, but it makes it much more likely that they might actually listen to the audio, which is really important. Or watch the videos you send to them, etc. And then the other part of this is you have it as well. And you can save assignments so you're not writing the same thing over and over. And you naturally have a copy of it because it's digital, right? So you don't need to take a photo of your student's notebook or photocopy it or whatever you're doing so far, make your own notes. You're both on the same page, you're both using the same list. So that's why I love having a practice app, but there are a few things that sort of from a teaching philosophy standpoint, I couldn't find a practice app that really fit the way I want to teach and the way I think about practice and motivation. So I decided to create my own. I'm not saying we've invented the wheel here. There are other apps out there. I'm not saying any of them are bad. They're just different to the way I like to approach things. So I wanted to put this out there for other teachers who, like me, have been looking for something with these kinds of features and this kind of focus. So this is Vivid Practice. When you get to the website, you can have a look at all the details and the tour and everything, and then you can create your own account. So you just go to sign up and you fill in your details. You'll see there's no payment here because you're creating a free account. So don't worry, you can just test it out. You're not going to be charged without knowing it. That's impossible. We don't have your card details. Just fill this out and then you'll have to confirm your email address. Once you've confirmed your email address, you can sign in. So I'm just going to sign in with a little test account here so that we can have a look around together. As you can see, my one student in this test account is called Amy Testerson. Just to remind me where I am. So this is not my real studio account, although I am using this for my studio. So this is what it looks like once you're logged in. And if you have the free account, you can just add one student, okay? So once you upgrade, you can add different numbers of students, but for the free account, you can add one student so that you can test it out to your heart's content. You can make sure it's the right fit for you before rolling it out to parents and students, which can feel like a big step, right? Now, of course, if you want to roll it out gradually, that's another way to do it. But for me, I want everyone in my studio to be using the same thing because it's just too much admin for me to check multiple things, do a Google Doc with one, handwrite another, and use a practice app for a third student. No, everyone has to do the same thing. So I wanted you to be able to test it out if you're the same as me and you just want to roll it out to everyone, but you want to check it out first. So the first thing you're going to want to do is create a student account and you fill in their details. I suggest creating a account that's actually for you, or some people do it for their kid, to test it out with their kid first of all, if they take lessons with you, or even if they don't take lessons, it can be a good way to trial it. But I like to test it just with myself. So I write in, Nicola Test, surname Test, whatever, and create my fake student account so that I can then download the app and log in with those details. So the website is for you, the teacher. The app is for the student. As a teacher, you don't log into the app. There's nothing there for you. It's for students. If you want to use the website on your phone, just use it in your browser. It works great. I've been doing that myself. I still have one family that I teach at their home, so I use my phone for taking practice notes for that. So I've tested it out myself and it works great. So yeah, the website is for you, the teacher. The app is for the student. You can add student accounts, and when you have a different plan, you can obviously add lots and lots of students. And then you click on a student, and then you can add different assignments for them. Okay, so we'll create an assignment together. Let's call it piece 17. You can put in the book name and the page number if you want to. You don't have to. If you're going to save it to use later, I suggest setting up folders in your library. But if you just want to use it once, you just save it there. You just leave that unchecked, and then select the type it is. So most things are going to be pieces. If you select theory, it's not going to show up in their daily practice list because you only do theory pages once, and so it doesn't really make sense for them to show up again and again. One of my small frustrations with other apps. So theory doesn't show up again and again. It's only in their list when they look at the list of what they have to do. It doesn't show up when they're in the practice modes. And then exercise is like technique, scales, whatever you want to put in there. Obviously, you can use other for anything. And then note is, again, it doesn't show up in their daily practice. It's just a reminder. The most common one in my studio, let me know if you're the same, is trim your nails. You know those students? Yeah. So let's say this is a piece. And then I can write any notes I want here. I can do bullets and numbered lists and whatever I want to do. I can add emojis right here. I often have emojis in my students' notes. And you can also add links. So if you want to link to wherever, you can do that there. Okay, so I'm just going to save this for now. So P17 is there, you can see it, and anything we've assigned to them will be there. Once they're finished that, say they come back and they've done great practice on that, we just hit the check mark and it goes to the completed assignments. Okay? And then if we did that by mistake, we can just send it back. We want to reopen it? Yes. So this way you easily have a list of everything the student has done, since you've started using Vivid Practice anyway. And you can also search in that list. So you can check if they did a piece before, if you can't remember. You know, when you do books out of order and you're just not sure, you can check by looking up what the completed assignments are using the search field. So once you've set up assignments in your library, obviously you can add them here. I'll just show you the library a little bit. But this is where you can save all your different assignments. You can create folders to organize everything. And we also have a bulk upload feature. So if this sounds overwhelming to you, if you're not super techy, that's fine. You can just fill out assignments one by one. But if you are someone like me who would love this feature, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So the way this works is you create a spreadsheet using, Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets or whatever spreadsheet software you like. And you do it in this specific format in the sample file. So you just download that and open it, and you'll see where you have to fill things in. So I'll show you that quickly now. So if I open it up, resize it so you can kind of see. So you'll see it has these titles up here. So we need to write the assignment title, the book name, the page number, what type it is. We need to fill this out very carefully. But if you do want to use this, you fill it out carefully, and then you can upload that. So you export it as a CSV, you upload it here, and you can add as many assignments at one time as you want that way. So if you have like a whole book and you just want to write it all out in a spreadsheet, because that'll be faster, and then upload it all in one go, rather than going create assignment for each one and filling it in, you can do that as well. Then we have our statistics. Obviously, Amy hasn't practiced at all because she's not a real person, but if she had, we would see it there. And we can do it by month or by year, and see who's practicing and what ways they're practicing. We have messages, so we can send messages to our students, and we have the account management here. So this is where you'll see the different plans. We've kept it very reasonably priced and started with a lower tier that works for small studios. I know a lot of teachers with just a few students, they're still taking their teaching seriously. They still love teaching. They want to use these tools, but the plans start a bit too high for them in general. So we have a super low under 10 students plan, and it goes up from there. And obviously you can pay annually and save a little bit as well if you want to. So that's basically how Vivid Practice works. And the app is obviously for students. I'm going to let you test that out for yourself or take a look at some of the previews we have over on Instagram. And if you have any questions about Vivid Practice, I'm happy to answer them. Right now, though, we're going to go into our Ask Me Anything section. Okay, folks, so if you have more questions, add them in. And I'll go back and review the chat. I'm going to start with the ones that were marked as questions. People who started with the word question, like I asked. So, Dan, regarding the cost of living, should I expect to have less students and have to decrease my rates? No and no. Look, it depends where you are. I'm not going to say that's impossible, because in some areas in particular, inflation is really hard. And it sort of depends where you are, because in some areas there's a bit more of a cushion. You know, people, yes, feel the inflation, but it means they don't get to go on holidays. in other areas, it means they really can't pay their bills. Okay, so, and that's not universal, but just as a general statement. I can only give you my experience. Others can give you their experience in the chat as well. My experience is I haven't lost any students due to the fees. I'm not getting fewer inquiries. And we have kept up with the rate of inflation, so we've raised our prices this year by 7%, which was the rate of inflation. I haven't done an actual raise, just an inflation raise, but that's still a lot. That's 7%. You know, it's not nothing. So, not necessarily losing students. And no, please don't decrease your rates unless you feel that it's really impossible for you to maintain your current rates for some reason. Linda asked, what do you use for sight reading duets? I love Jennifer Eklund's Fired Up. Okay, I actually love to do evenly leveled duets for this as well. Obviously easier for me to read, but it means that my student can do either side and we can kind of swap back and forth. So I have a post on the site. I'm going to grab the link for you. colourfulkeys.ie/duets has kind of a list of my favourite evenly leveled duets. Also, you're a member, Linda, so if you go to the recommended repertoire library on the membership site, you can filter by duets there and you'll be able to find good ones there as well. But yeah, some of my favourites are there. Anna, a 13-year-old student who is in the early intermediate level in the repertoire she can play, but she's way behind in reading. I think this is kind of part 2. I assign readings to practice at home. We also read in class, but never does those homework. Just touches the pieces. Help! Oh no, help! Yeah, look, Anna, it's tough. With a teenager in this circumstance, and it's not uncommon, where we have a teenager, especially a transfer student, who gets to that level of playing, but they actually can't read, and no one's really addressed it with them, or they've taught themselves, and, you know. So, what I always would say first is, have you actually talked to her about it? Like, one-on-one, as if she's an adult. I know she's not an adult. She's a child, okay? But she's a teenager. And so, we kind of need to talk to them, not condescendingly, but genuinely take into consideration what it is they want and their opinions. So I would start by having an open conversation with her, which is, hey, you're awesome at this, you're great at that. I've discovered reading is pretty difficult, or an area where you're a little bit further behind, or whatever way you want to word it. Do you agree with that, first of all? And then open up this conversation and see whether, does she want to read? Does she think that what you're doing is in her best interest? Like, if she wants to read, these will help. And if all that is true, is she just having trouble motivating herself? But like, actually having a conversation, a real conversation with teenagers about this stuff goes a long way, because she's probably, maybe, just thinking, oh, my teacher says I should do this, but I want to play, I don't know, whatever she wants to play, and this isn't relevant to me. Now, maybe it is relevant to her actual goals, but we need to know what those are and explain to her why we're doing this thing and how it'll help us get there, and then strike a sort of balance and even a compromise between us of, okay, so we're going to do 2 minutes of reading a day and 5 minutes of reading in the class, and then we're going to do all the other stuff, but we need to keep this in balance. So this is our agreement. Like, strike an actual deal that she is on board with, because if she's not on board, even if you think it's a much better plan than the one you would come up with as a compromise with her, if she's not on board, she's not doing it. I mean, you've seen it. She's not doing it. So it doesn't get you anywhere. So see if you can come up with a compromise, but start with the conversation. Linda, what age is good to begin Vivid practice? Do your parents manage the app for younger students, or is there a particular age that you begin with? Great question. So all ages, all my students use Vivid practice, except our mini musician students, because they don't practice. That's the reason for that. But all our other students use it. And yeah, it's the parents' responsibility to manage the app. So I tell them to put it on a device that's going to work for them, that the student can access during practice time. For many parents, that's their phone, and that is absolutely fine, because it gets them involved in the practice. But really, any younger students, I'm expecting the parent to manage that entirely. And it is on them to manage their child's activity on that device. You know, there's no ability for me to say, okay, once you open Vivid Practice, they're locked out from all other things. They have to be there if their child is using technology. So, yeah, that's what I would say about that. In regards to a specific age, that is entirely a family decision, and I'm not getting involved in it. Some parents give their child a phone at age 9, and many wait until they're age 13. That's their decision. They normally have a solution that they've come up with. They need to use apps and different things for schoolwork. And so whatever they use for that, whatever solution they have for that, that's what they use for their practice as well. Deanna, I love the new app, and I'm considering switching over from paper assignment sheets. Do you still track practice days though, like the little composers you colour? Those are on my old assignment sheets, which are still on the website. That's what she's referring to. Not in that way, but you will still see when they have practiced and for how long. So if they're in the practice mode, you can see, and like once you download the app, you'll see how it works. Test it out for yourself. There's a little timer that's going off so they can see how long they're practicing as well, and it will log that. And in your teacher dashboard, you will see when they're practicing and how long. So it's not a case of them counting it for themselves. However, we also have a routine reminder feature. So when they first log in, let me see if I can show this, maybe. When they first log in, they get a screen which asks them to set up times to get reminders to practice. Now, they're just notifications on the phone, so like if they ignore them, they ignore them. There's nothing we can do about that. But it does mean that they have that intention of practicing at certain times, and that's really the advantage for me. It's not so much about the notification, although hopefully that helps. It's about them setting an intention of when to practice. So yeah, here it is. Hopefully you can kind of see that. So it gets this screen. They can skip it. They don't have to use reminders. It's not forced, but I would recommend that they do. And I talk to my students about that. So you see, like if I turn it on, that's Tuesdays, I'm going to practice at 3:45 or whatever. And I can turn it on, and then it will send me a reminder at that time that it's time to practice. So yeah, that's 2 ways to kind of answer that question. And then you also asked, do you just see if they are marking the assignments complete on the app? No, you see the amount of time they're practicing, and you see the practice mode they're doing. So again, if I kind of show you, I know it's kind of awkward on my phone, but if I kind of show you the modes, so you can see which one of those they choose. So I always recommend students start with blocked, which is just like a checklist, but there are the different modes as well, and I kind of progress them onto that. Hope that helps. Jimmy, you can see the student side of the app 2 ways. So if you set up your free account, you'll be, and like log into the site, you'll see the tutorials area. Let me show you that actually. That was the thing I was looking at. There we go. So the tutorials area is here. If you go there, the first video is a tutorial video really for students that you can learn to use the student app. Now, I recommend teaching your students yourself, like actually show them during the lesson, get them to do it themselves during the lesson. That's the most effective way to get students really using it. But that is a great tutorial for you, and if you want to send it to students for them as well, to learn how to use the app. So you can see how it works there because it's all shown in the tutorial. The other way is just create your free account, set up a sub-student account like I showed earlier, and make it you. Like make it a student version of you. For my old one, I used to use a photo of myself when I'm like 6, just because I'm silly. You don't have to do that. But then you can log in on the app as a student and see exactly how it works. So that's always what I'd recommend, because I don't want to say to you, hey, roll this out to your students. No, like you're the teacher, you get to decide, it's your business. So try it out for yourself. See if it's the right practice vibe for you, if you agree with how I think about practice, the lack of gamification, as in like points and stuff. There's none of that, and that's on purpose. The 4 practice modes and how they work, and the simplicity really of it, because that's what I think actually works with this stuff. Okay, I'm going to go back to the regular comments here, see if I missed anything. Do my best. Wondering that about the student age as well. Nice. Yeah, very true. If you're teaching online, like that's why we moved to using a practice app in the first place. But actually, I think it's better even in person. I'm a convert. That's awesome. That's fantastic to hear that you're already using it and you're enjoying it so far. Like, it's only out a few days, so it's great to hear from people that are using it, because we've been working on it in secret for a long time. Okay, fantastic stuff. Thank you all for joining me. Oh my gosh, still so many of you here. It's great to have you. I hope you can join us for the birthday next week. So we've got birthday celebrations every day, Tuesday through Saturday, and they are either 1 hour earlier than this or the same time as this. So 1 hour earlier than this, Tuesday to Friday, and then the same time as this on Saturday. And every day I'll be opening prizes and giving away prizes to members who have signed up for that. Check your email if you're not sure about that. And we'll be doing fun stuff, having some giggles together, and learning about some different things as well. So I hope you can join me for those. And thank you so much for joining me for this. I hope you check out Vivid Practice. vividpractice.com is the address for that, and you can set up a free account. So test it out to your heart's content and let us know if you've any questions or feedback on that. And yeah, I'll see you next week for the birthday lives. Bye.